Hello, friends. How you doing? I hope you're doing great. I am Lady Calamere. I welcome you to my channel. I'm doing my 321st presentation, and it will be on the god Enlil. In Babylonian, his name is Enlil, but in Sumerian is Enlil. Who was he? Well, let's talk. First of all, Enlil, beside his father, and before Marduk took over, he was the second most powerful god, male god, in the Sumerian pantheon. And in the Babylonian pantheon, the other gods could barely even look upon him, for he was just a blazing bright white light. And some of the stories of the God of the Hebrew Bible, or the Old Testament, has stories that are, adjacent to other gods, but also to Enlil. And you know the god of the flood, who caused the flood? Well, during Noah's time, when the flood was supposed to have been said and been done, during that time there was many flourishing kingdoms. So it couldn't have happened during the time of Noah, which is bullshit. Because if the world was flooded, why were there flourishing kingdoms? Tell me how that makes sense. So anyways, but there is a consensus among scientists that yes, the world did flood. There was a great flood. Pretty much every culture that I've, and religions and spiritualities and stories, even among the Aztecs, the Incas, Christianity, Judaism, Babylonian, even in Sumerian, has said that the world did flood. This is the God that caused it. So it was quite different from what the God of the Bible did and why. But anyways, let's get on to who he was. This God became the supreme God. He took over Anu. Anu is the sky god. So Enlil is the son of Ki, the earth goddess, the land, and the sky god Anu. And this god rose to supreme position by the Akkadian period, from up to 2100 BCE, and I think the beginning, I think it's like 2300 or 2000 BCs to 2100 BCE. But he continued to be a great and powerful deity throughout the history of the Mesopotamian stories, the myths, the legends. And what does his name mean? What does his name mean? Lord Wind, or the God of the Wind. He was called the Father of the Gods and the King of Heaven. It was him that helped with creation of earth, because Anu and Ki were together like this, so he separated Anu and Ki from each other. Where does this card come from? Let's give credit where credit is due. It comes from A Guide to the Babylonian Tarot by Sandra Tabitha Cicero. You see? So this is all by Cicero. It's her art. So she worked hard on this. It's a very beautiful deck. If you can still get it, I recommend getting it, especially if you are into the Babylonian. So it's all about the Babylonian Tarot. I got it as a kid. So his color is blue, and here he is as the King of Arrows, which I'll show you. But she uses arrows in the deck. And his stone is lapis lazuli. He is a god that controls the winds. He also was one of the gods of the storms. This god held great and powerful rulership and power over the cosmos. He influenced the destinies of both mortals and deities. He was... Oh! There's Mr. Loki Luffy-san. Whoop, 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 whoop. No, phone almost came off my tripod. No, don't want that to happen. So he is the god of maintaining and responsible for cosmic order out of chaos. He is the Lord who makes sure that the cycle of the seasons are regular and not topsy-turvy. He was the overseer of the fertility of the earth and the land and fertility over crops. So he's a god of storms and wind. He's one of the gods. So his storms could bring both good and bad, renewal as well as destruction and death. So he can release devastating storms that can devastate a town, a city, the crops, a nation. So he can bring life-giving rain or drown that life out rain. So he had a duality there of creation, destruction, preserving, and killing. And he is a god of fertility, and to make sure that we had the abundant harvest to eat. And he is the god of that makes sure that we had food to fill our bellies. All right. He was the one, Enlil is the king of heaven, therefore he has great authority and power, and he was the one who basically made kings and entrusted the king to ensure that there is good governance, order, justice, and truth, and to rule with divine will. Enlil was involved with the creation of all mankind, humans. But in the Atrahasis, which deals with the gods can be kind of cruel, he was the god that said, release the fucking flood upon the earth. Even though a lot of deities were against it, he did it. And it was Enki who basically saved the human race. You see, this god, when he created humans, of course, we're a rowdy bunch, right? And they kept getting louder and louder and louder and louder. You know, it just with our screaming or dancing, you know, our concerts, our Slayer our concerts and metal concerts, and all of a sudden we come up with Slayer back then. Oh no, not Slayer. And this poor guy just couldn't take it anymore. His ears were bleeding from this shit. He's like, I can't get any rest. These guys are listening to Slayer 24/7. What am I supposed to do? I'm being funny. Oh, I know. I'll drown them all. I'll drown all those bitches out. And that's what he did. So, but it was Enki who came to the rescue. And he finds this man, Zusudra, and he tells him, you know, go save your family, go save some animals, go get them on a big fucking boat and get the hell out of there. Well, Zusudra built a boat, did as Enki command. You remember how God went to Noah? So it was actually Enki goes to Zusudra and said, get everyone out of there. You know. Yeah, Enlil's pissed because you're just listening to too much Slayer all the time, and you know you're causing seismic earthquakes with your music and what. I'm just being silly, but anyways, you get my meaning. So yeah, Enlil was angry at Enki. That Enlil said, you defied my command. I wanted to erase all. Just start anew. A lot of gods and goddesses were angry at Enlil, but what can they do? But Enki did manage to save him. And after the flood receded, Zusudra made sacrifice to the gods, and Enlil was pleased, and he said, you know, Enki, hindsight's 2020. You really came through. You really stopped me from doing something that would have been just permanent. So Enlil saw wisdom in Enki's trickery of tricking Enlil, thinking that he killed everyone. And eventually Enlil really liked Zusudra and gave Zusudra gave him godship and immortality status. So yeah. So Zusudra is the Sumerian Babylonian story of Noah and the flood that happened way before Noah happened, because the timeline of Noah, there was just no way the flood was there. So Enlil, let's just read a little bit from this card. So anyways, this is some of the Sumerian hymns that venerate him. Enlil, whose command is far-reaching, whose word is holy, the Lord whose pronouncement is unchangeable, who forever decrees destinies, whose lifted eye scans the lands, whose lifted beam searches the heart of all the lands. Enlil, who sits broadly on the white dais, who perfects the decrees of power, lordship, and princeship. The arrogant, the agreement violator. He does not tolerate their evil in the city. So then there's more hymns that the earth gods bow down in fear before him. The heaven gods humble themselves before him. Nippur, the shrine where dwells the Father. Its prince, great mountain, Father Enlil, has established his seat on the dais of the Ikor lofty shrine. The temple, its decrees, like heaven, cannot be overturned. Its pure rights, like the earth, cannot be shattered. Its words are prayers, its utterances are supplication. Its ritual is precious. Its feasts flow with fat and milk and are rich with abundance. Its storehouses bring happiness and rejoicing. Enlil's house, it is a mountain of plenty. Here we see praises of Enlil, that he wasn't seen like an a-hole, and so Enlil's wife, Enlil's wife was Ninlil, and they had many children, which included the moon god Sin, or he's also called Nanar, and Suen, the sun god Shamesh, the god of storms, another god is Baal Adad, Nusku, and of course, some stories say that Enlil is the father of Queen of Heaven herself, Ishtar, and Nana. So anyways, as you can see, his beard is that, and the hair is the color of lapis lazuli, his precious stone. So yes, lapis lazuli, which I did a presentation on, is sacred to Enlil. And it's also sacred to Eresh Kigal. It's also sacred to Inanna, Ishtar. So natural disasters, through storms or drought, people would turn to this god for protection and help and to endurance, because he did rule over natural disasters, but he also, because that's just the nature, So when you think of hurricanes like Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Andrew, tornadoes. You know, he deals with that. He deals with tornadoes. He deals with hurricanes. He deals with these storms. He's one of the gods of the storms. Now, his most significant and great temple was the temple of Enlil, and that was in the city of Nippur. And this temple actually served as a political center. Yes, political, as religious center. So not only did it deal with politics, as usual, but also religious. Now, Enlil held at that time the tablet of destiny. And that's a prominent theme in the Babylonian and Sumerian myths. What you doing? Oh, Loki's taking a nap. Don't mind me. I have ADHD. And the tablet of destiny was coveted. It really was coveted. And this was a symbol of rule and control over the fate of the universe, the cosmos. And it was an object of immense great power. So it can determine the destinies of people, the destiny of everything, including the gods and goddesses. So you'll see that in like the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Enuma Elish. You'll see about that. I don't want to go too much into the Tablet of Destiny, as that's gonna just like, I'll just end up taking that ball and run off with it. But it was passed on from one ruler to the next, and it was even stolen once, in which Enlil had Ninurta bring it back, and Ninurta could have seized power, but he didn't. He gave it back to Enlil, to its rightful owner. So those who held the Tablet of Destinies gained unparalleled, magnificent power over pretty much everything. I mean, eventually was passed on to Marduk for the victory over Tiamat. And one day I'm going to I already covered Tiamat, and one day I will cover Marduk. So the Tablet of Destinies is, deals with here I'm going off on Enlil, but divine authority and fate. So let's get back to Enlil, because I don't want to get off that subject. So Enlil becomes king, but we also see that eventually Enlil gets punished. And why? And because he falls in love with Enlil. And after the union of Ninlil and Enlil, he was punished. He faced divine punishment and was exiled out of Nippur. And because of that, he was exiled into the underworld. But Ninlil went with him, and she gave birth to, Sin, the god, the moon god. And one day I'm going to cover him too. And so, yeah. Sorry, I'm just thirsty. But he gets a divine slap for his union, which wasn't supposed to be. And how long have I been going on? God, I feel like I've only been doing 10 minutes. So this powerful God gets moved out, booted out. And I guess it's because the political powers that be is just, my God is more powerful than your God. Oh yeah, we'll replace this God with this other God. Isn't that the case? My God is more powerful than your God. Or your God got punished or something. So, whatever. But that's in the stories of Enlil. So, when you look at the Epic of Gilgamesh, and he's there's always one God against this person or that person. And yeah, Enlil went after Gilgamesh. So, yeah, there's that story. And so, yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm just a little fuzzy headed today. Oh, my back is hurting. So Enlil was very popular, of course. And he was worshipped throughout that whole area. What you doing, Loki? Loki, why don't you come down and say hello to everybody? See, my ADD is going off. And Gilgamesh wasn't always a good guy. He really wasn't. He becomes good through a fight with Enkidu, and then Enkidu and him becoming friends. But yeah, Gilgamesh at one time was a big a-hole. He wasn't a good ruler. And so Enkidu is killed, and Gilgamesh goes on his quest for his friend. But again, I don't really want to talk about Gilgamesh too much, because then I'm going to go off and then I'm going to start showing you cards of Gilgamesh and going, you know. So there's a whole big story about there, and my mind is already going off, and I'm going to be talking about that. So let's get off that. So yes, Enlil is a god that you can call for if you are farming, if you grow crops. He's one of the gods that you can still call upon if there's a storm heading your way. And if you feel more closer to Enlil than the other storm gods, and go right ahead for that. Hi, Loki. Talking about destruction. No, Loki. Hi, Loki Loftyson. He wants to give everyone smoochies. Look at Loki. Loki wants attention. He's got to do things. He's got to do horrible things. Right, Loki? I feel like I'm a little bit off my game today. So, like I said, Enlil deals with the heavens. He's a heavenly god. He deals with the atmosphere. And like I said, his name means Lord Wind. Yeah, I repeat a little bit because that's how I teach. That's how I learn. So that's what I do. So Enlil has great titles like King of the Gods, King of the Heavens, King of all the lands, the Great Mountain, Father of the black-headed people. Yeah, I know. Father of the black-headed people. Lord of, okay, the Roaring Storms. That's another title, the Roaring Storm. So if you look at the word Lil, right, in Sumerian, it means haunted or ghost, dealing with a spirit, ghost, phantom. I think it's more to deal with spirit. So and also it also deals with wind. So there, right there is the spirit of the wind. Ow, my back hurts. anyways, let me read a little bit what Sandra Tabitha has to say about him. Where is that? So, head of the younger generation of gods, Enlil, son of Anu and Ki, was the lord of wind and storm. In authority, he was second only to his father, Anu. His Sumerian name was Enlil, and after 2500 BCE, he was effectively the national god of Sumer. His name means Lord Wind, and he was said to have separated his parents, which I already talked about, with a pickaxe. And that's the gift he also gave to humankind, as a pickaxe. So to help us farm, and that's I'm just going off this, so this is my thing. He gave humankind a pickaxe, a gift to farm the lands. So let me go here. Okay, considered king of all the lands, the other gods were not even allowed to look upon his splendor, and yet they were eager for his blessings. His other titles were raging storm, great mountain, wild bull, father of the gods, establisher of kingship, and the king of heaven and earth. So I'll just, and they'll symbolize the forces of nature and was considered to be the master of humanity's fate. He ruled over disasters, prosperity, abundance, and destiny. So if you're looking to maybe change your circumstances, or you feel that your fate needs to be, needs to be changed, or you want to know what your destiny is, this is a God to call. If you want some abundance and prosperity in your life, this is the God to call. If you want your plant to grow, or your little crop to grow, or your big crops to grow, this is the God to call. If you want better status in life, and you want to live more like a prince or a king, then this is a God to call. Or live like a princess or a queen, this is a God to call. So again, and it comes from Babylonian Tarot by Sandra Tabitha Cicero. What you doing? You're digging through my tarot box, Loki. You think those cards are your toys? Yeah, you're a god. You're blessing them. So what do you do to offer this god? Of course, animal sacrifices were at one time done. I'm not suggesting you do that. But definitely giving some of your crops, or if you go to a grocery store, you can give them some, the things that you bought. There were many processions and dances and songs done to him, and with his statue throughout the streets in ancient Sumerian Babylon and around that area. But we can also, you can't go wrong with sweets. You can't go wrong with bread. You can't go wrong with fruits and vegetables. You can't go wrong with, if you come home with KFC, is offer him a, piece of chicken. Or if you come home from Burger King, maybe you give him some fries. You just can't go wrong with that. But yeah, berries is also a good thing to give him. Definitely baked goods, cake, bread, cookies. Really? Honoring him when storms are happening. Giving him really? giving him daily prayer or honoring him, just, you know, honor him as a king, honor him as a great Lord. So if you want, so especially like I said, if you want something to change in your life, call upon this God. If you're facing storms of life, call upon your gods. If you're having inner storms, you can call upon this God to help you. He will help you through the storms. Is Enlil approachable? He can be. But remember, even the gods couldn't look at him, but they wanted his blessings. They could not, they were not, or they were forbidden to look at him. So he was part of the Trinity, and Enlil. He was a triad of gods, along with Enki and Anu. So there was, Enlil, there was Anu, Enlil, and Enki. And I already did a presentation on Enki. But together they formed a trinity, a triad. Enlil was a mediator between the earth and the heaven. So Enlil is if I say he's approachable, he's an opposing, powerful figure, a strong, powerful figure, and he was just like raw power, the raw power. Okay, he is like he could be very savage power of nature. And remember, he does deal with storms. And is even sometimes showing holding a lightning bolt. And even showing holding a staff. He's also portrayed wearing that horned cap, which shows his divine kingly status. So he is a god of creation. Remember that. And he does have a very fearsome aspect. He does have this I'm an angry God. I'm a powerful God. But yet he can also be a very good God, a very generous God, and a very happy God. I mean, even he is a God of great raw power. So just remember that, what you're dealing with. So, yeah, I've read some things online that Enki was the one to cause destruction. Now, Enki saved humanity. It was Enlil that brought the storms, brought the flood. But again, he wasn't like the God of the Bible. Let's just leave it at that. The God of the Old Testament. And it's like, you ever hear, I'll bring the fury of the Old Testament God to you? Yeah, again, the Old Testament God is a composite of Inanna, composite of Sophia, composite of Enki, composite of Enlil, composite of Marduk. So he's a composite god of, you know. But again, I don't want to get off that, because if I keep on, I'm going to just start talking about that. So what else do I want to talk about him? I think I've talked a lot about him. Anyways, I do hope you did get something out of this, and that you did enjoy it. I'm sometimes my worst critic and feel like I didn't do a good job, but I really do hope you felt I do a good job. And let me look at this, see one more thing about this. And oh, there we are. I think I see. Enlil was a friend to humanity, and that's what she even writes. Enlil was a friend to humanity. However, like the Hebrew god Yahweh, his anger could be aroused by human wickedness. It was Enlil who advocated that the gods unleashed the great flood upon humanity in the story of the Athrahasis. The unpleasant task of enforcing human calamities decreed by the assembly of the gods fell upon Enlil. Because of this, he has usually been accused of being a severe and destructive deity by later scholars. By contrast, Sumerian hymns venerate him as a gracious father figure who protects his people. So it wasn't just him being angry, but he's the one that carried it out. So, and some of the gods and goddesses were not happy with Enlil's decision. So anyways, I really hope you liked this presentation. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Please like and subscribe to my channel. And also, it's talking about storms, the flooding in Texas. Think about now, if, to donate to charities that are helping the people right now. And, not just the people, but the animals. Because cats and dogs and pets are suffering. So think about giving, even $1 to these charities that are helping these poor fur babies that are lost and confused, and they've been separated from their humans and everything. So it's not just human suffering, it's also animals. Think about that. Donating canned goods, blankets, whatever. Or donating to your local SPCA anyways, even if it has nothing to do with the Texas flooding. Because they're over saturated with animals, too many pets, and not enough people adopting. So anyways, thank you so much for watching, and as always, blessed be.